The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agreed to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones video. In this video, I want to do something a little different. I don't know how many of you are like me, but ever since Game of Thrones ended, I have been wondering what all of the characters could do next. Now, I know the show is over, but that doesn't mean these characters have to die. In my mind, they are still living their lives, so I started thinking about what I would do with the characters if I were writing the next season. I do have a few ideas that I still haven't fully fleshed out yet, but I figured I could do that as I go along. Now, I'm not making this video because I think I'm some great writer or anything like that. In fact, I would actually say the opposite about myself, but I won't let that stop me from having some fun. So, in this video, I will go over my version of the new season for Game of Thrones. And keep in mind, I'm writing this based on how things ended in the final season. I am making myself begin right where HBO left off. Now let's get into it. My version of the first episode of Season 9 will be named A New Awakening. The first episode will start with a cold opening. So before the opening credits and theme song even begin, we will be jumping right into the first scene. We will be immediately thrown into a flashback scene, and I will let you know right up front, all of this will foreshadow some of the major events from the season. In the first flashback scene, we are back inside the Three-Eyed Raven's cave. We will see Bran Stark, the Three-Eyed Raven, and Leaf having a conversation. Hodor and Mira Reed are off screen sitting outside the cave, where we have seen them sit before. This is when we will see the Three-Eyed Raven and Leaf explain how Bran's visions will work. What they say to him is lifted right out of the books, although I did make some of my own minor changes. We hear the Three-Eyed Raven say, "A werewood will live forever if left undisturbed." For them, seasons come and go in the flutter of a bird's wing, and past, present, and future are one. Nor will your sight be limited to your god's wood. The singers carved eyes into their heart trees to awaken them, and those are the first eyes a new Greenseer learns to use. In time, you will be able to see well beyond the trees themselves. Now remember what was said here, because this has major implications for Bran Stark's abilities. This lets us know Bran won't always need the werewoods for him to be able to see things. It also indicates he might be able to see future events as well. Then we cut to another flashback scene. Now we see a massive red building, and standing outside of that building is hundreds of followers of R'hllor who are all dressed in red robes. All of them are looking at the sky, but we can't quite make out what they're looking at. After a few moments, we see a giant shadow in the shape of a dragon fly right over top of them. They look happy for its arrival. The flashback goes to the next scene. Now we see Arya Stark in the woods, surrounded by wolves. This was when she reunited with Nymeria, and all we get is a glimpse of this, then it flashes to the next scene. Bran Stark is inside the old throne room of the Red Keep. We're not able to hear anything at first, but we can see he's having a conversation with a large man dressed in House Stark's brown leathers with a horrific looking scar on his face. As soon as Bran signals for the man to step in closer, we're suddenly able to hear what he says next. In a low voice, Bran says, "When you return, I will make you the master of whisperers." Then we go to another flashback scene. Now we're back inside the Three-Eyed Raven's cave. We are looking through the eyes of a raven. We don't see anyone inside, other than some dead bodies and the bones on the ground. It looks like the inside of the cave was on fire. Most of the roots of the werewood are now blackened with ash. The raven takes flight, and we begin going deeper into the cave, where no living man has gone before. Some of you might not know this, but the Three-Eyed Raven's cave is actually massive. It's not only one level like we saw in Game of Thrones, it goes down deep into the earth. The raven is now flying through complete darkness. After what feels like several minutes, the raven finally lands inside a chamber we've never seen before. There are lots of candles burning along the wall. The floor is covered in what looks like hundreds of years worth of melted wax. In the back of the chamber, there are roots of the werewood shaped into 3 werewood thrones. The raven flaps across the room, and he begins walking up and down the roots of the werewood. When the bird looks down, we can see there are 3 very old members of the Children of the Forest. They have long white hair, with very long white beards. At first, they look like they're dead, but right before the flashback scene ends, one of them opens his eyes, scaring the Raven away. Now these next few scenes happen really fast. Now we're in Winterfell's Godswood. We hear Bran say to Jaime, "How do you know there is an afterwards?"
What about afterwards?
How do you know there is an afterwards?
Then we see Jon stab Daenerys in front of the Iron Throne. Then we see Bran in King's Landing. We hear him say, "Why do you think I came all this way?"
Will you lead the Seven Kingdoms to the best of your abilities from this day until your last day?
Why do you think I came all this way?
We see Ned Stark behead the Night's Watch deserter. We see the Iron Throne before it was melted. Then we hear Bran say to Jon, "You are exactly where you were supposed to be."
I'm sorry I wasn't there when you needed me.
You were exactly where you were supposed to be.
Now, some of these scenes indicate Bran Stark knew what would happen in the end. Now we're back inside the Three-Eyed Raven's cave. We hear Leaf explain why they created the Night King.
We were at war. We were being slaughtered. Our sacred trees cut down. We needed to defend ourselves.
From whom?
From you.
In this final flashback scene, we see the Night King when he laid his finger on the face of one of Craster's sons. We're about to finally see what happens after this. When the baby's eyes became blue, the Night King gets back on his horse while holding the baby. We see him, as well as all the other White Walkers, ride back to their castle in the lands of Always Winter. We follow them as they walk inside the castle, then down a flight of stairs. They enter what looks like a crypt, similar to Winterfell's. The only difference is, everything in this castle is either made out of ice or carved into it. The Night King bends down to set the baby on a large block of ice. Right as the Night King stands back up, we get a better view of just how big this crypt actually is. What it really looks like is an underground mine shaft that stretches out like very long fingers into many different directions. It makes one wonder where they all lead, because you can only see so far into the dark, but this isn't the most shocking reveal. Right over the Night King's shoulder we can see there are dozens of babies laying on blocks of ice. The blocks are in single file lines, stretching down each one of the shafts until they disappear into the darkness. The flashbacks end when we cut to Bran Stark sitting in the chair. His eyes are still rolled back in his head, but there's something different about them. They're not as white as they used to be. They have somewhat of a blue haze to them. After a few moments, they flip back to normal, then we immediately cut to the opening theme. Like I said before, all of these flashback scenes will happen in the very first episode before the opening credits. All of them foreshadow some of the major events that will happen in this season. Now I know it took me several minutes to explain what happened in all of the scenes, but you have to imagine how fast all of this would happen if you saw it on the screen yourself. Each of the scenes would fly by really fast because you would be able to see and hear everything without me having to describe it all. Now, what I think I will do is upload the opening scene by itself first, just to get a feel for how many of you want to see me continue making them. I thought about writing out the entire first episode, but a lot of you might not even want to watch something like this, so before I go investing any more time into writing out the episodes, I want to see how many of you are interested in seeing what else I would do for the following season. If you want to see me finish the first episode as well as the rest of the season, let me know down below. If you hate this idea, then I can just stop right now before I go any further. The subscribers will decide how far I go with this. Either way, thanks for watching what I have written thus far. As always, I hope all of you have a great day. I will see you soon. Bye.